Hello Rebels and welcome back to my life. So November has been a pretty crazy month, although it's not nearly as crazy as my life was before September, so I've been able to institute a little bit of reading time each and every day. It's not much, usually just like 15 to 25 minutes per day snatched in between writing sessions, but I'm a decently fast reader, so I've still been able to get through books at a fairly rapid rate. I read paperbacks, not ebooks, because even though as an author I sell way more ebooks than print books, there's nothing like that tree corpse feel under your fingers to enhance the reading experience. Yes, much like the Vlog Brothers, I am obsessed with death, but in a very different way. You see this shelf, this one right up here? That is my to-be-read shelf. Now, some of them are books that I've read before, some I'm reading for the first time, but that is the list of books I am currently planning to read in the order I am planning to read them. And the first book that I finished in my new reading schedule is called Vietnam Diary, 1966 to 1967, and before anyone accuses me of hidden nepotism, yes, the author is my father. His name is Robbie Robinson. That's him on the back of the cover, and if you want to pick up a copy, there's a link in the doobly-doo. Now, my dad had me at the age of 40, which is later than a lot of people have kids in their life, a lot later than I had mine. When my first child was born, I was 24. Oof. So while a lot of people I know have grandparents who were in Vietnam, I have my dad, which makes that time period, even though it's 20 years before I was born, seem much more immediate and real to me than I think it would be otherwise. I mean, like, virtually no one my age, or probably your age, has parents who were in World War II, right? Maybe you have grandparents, but probably not. And so World War II seems like something from the distant past, because it's very hard to find someone who you can even ask what it was like to actually be there. And so by contrast, while I was reading this book, I couldn't shake the knowledge that these were journal entries and letters and words from someone who I personally know very well. And not just somebody I could reach out to if I wanted to, but somebody I've spent my entire life knowing, which was even harder to forget considering that my dad, still kind of talks and acts in some ways the way that he does in the pages of the book. In other ways, of course, he's completely different. I mean, in the journal entries and letters and whatnot, he was a 19-year-old kid in the Marines in Vietnam, so let's just say some shenanigans were gotten up to that were a little weird to read sometimes. And it's that weird dichotomy, the dad that I have known my entire life juxtaposed over this scared kid 10 years younger than I am now in the middle of the Vietnam jungle that made this such a profound reading experience for me. And so, Rebels, I don't know if you would enjoy the book as much as I did, and I know for sure that you would not enjoy it in exactly the same way. But whether you do it through the pages of this book or another one, I think that all of us should spend a little bit more time reading the words of people who have faced experiences that most of us, thank goodness, will never have to face. Now, maybe I only feel this way because of my relationship to the author, but it's very easy to think of wars as something that happened in the past, and to use that thought, that frame of reference, to ignore what's going on actively, actually, in the present. But someday, probably after they've found their way into the narrative of popular films and books, today's conflicts that are going on around the world that our countries are involved in will be looked back on the same way that we look back on Vietnam right now. We will think that they are something that happened back then, that our countries were not as advanced then as they are now, and that we used to get into stupid wars with absolutely no justification until our citizenry wised up and started paying attention to what was going on. But if we will one day look back on current conflicts the way that we currently look back on Vietnam, what does that say about our situation right now? What does it say about the wars our countries are involved in, where the justifications will look just as thin and flimsy in retrospect as we currently think the justifications for entering Vietnam were? I don't think the answer to that is necessarily simple, but I think that it's more obvious than we'd like to admit, and yet we have to examine it, we have to look at it, we have to talk about it if we ever want to do something about it. Finally, for once. Because whatever we're doing today hasn't changed all that much from 1966, and it still isn't working. Thanks for watching. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.